Everyone thought this was just a wild night, a broken glass, and a little blood on the floor, until Judge Judy looked at one sister and said, "You're having a fight with the truth, and the truth is winning." The courtroom was quiet at first, not the peaceful kind of quiet, the kind of quiet that sits in the air like smoke before a fire. On one side stood a young woman who said her apartment had been destroyed after a birthday night spiraled completely out of control. On the other side stood two sisters, one sober, one injured, both trying to explain why blood ended up on carpets, furniture, tile, and even near the bathroom, and at the center of it all was Judge Judy, sharp eyes, cold patience. The kind of silence that makes people confess before they even realize they are doing it. This case did not begin with screaming. It began with a birthday. A group of young women had planned a night out. They were friends, or at least they claimed to be. They met earlier in the day, went to the gym, prepared for the evening, and eventually went out to celebrate. There was music, drinks, movement, excitement, the kind of night where everyone thinks they are in control until the night starts controlling them. The plaintiff, Miss Warach, had allowed the sisters to come to her apartment. They had been there for hours before going out. They had worked out, changed clothes, left belongings behind, and used the apartment as the starting point for the night. That detail seemed small, but in Judge Judy's courtroom, small details have a way of becoming weapons. Because when the night ended, one person did not want to go home. Miss Warach wanted to stay at a male friend's house. The others were taken back to her apartment by a witness. Mr. Newble, who had the keys. According to the people in court, he had been sober. One of the sisters, Shiva, was also sober. The other sister was not. And that is where the story began to crack. When the sisters arrived back at the apartment, Shiva said she immediately knew something was wrong. Her sister looked pale. Her lips were blue. She seemed disoriented, frightened, and completely out of control. Then came the glass. Shiva said she tried to give her sister water. She grabbed a cup, filled it, and handed it over. But the moment her sister touched it, the glass shattered in her hand. Blood appeared, then panic. The injured sister looked down, saw the cut, and became hysterical. Shiva said she tried to calm her down, tried to wrap the wound, tried to keep her still. But her sister was running around the apartment, crying, bleeding, frightened, and confused. That was the explanation: a shattered glass, a wounded hand, a panicked sister. But the pictures told a much darker story. Blood was not just in one spot. There was blood on the tile, blood near the bathroom, blood on the carpet, blood on the sofa. Broken glass spread across the apartment. A toilet tank cover was damaged. A remote was broken. A television had a mark on it. The place did not look like someone had simply cut their finger. It looked like chaos had walked through every room and left evidence behind. Judge Judy listened. But she was not just listening to words. She was listening for the spaces between words, the hesitation, the over-explaining, the parts of the story that sounded rehearsed, the parts that sounded impossible. And then she started pulling the thread. First, she focused on the original plan. Were the sisters supposed to stay overnight at Miss Warach's apartment? The sisters suggested yes. Miss Warach said no. Judge Judy did not argue immediately. She stepped backward in time. Had they started the evening at the plaintiff's apartment? Yes. How long had they been there? Since around 4 or 5:00 in the afternoon. Had they gone to the gym? Yes. Who went? The sober ones. Had they returned to the apartment afterward? Yes. Did they have gym clothes there? Yes. Did they go to the mall and buy clothes for the night? Yes. Did they come back, shower and get ready? Yes. And right there, Judge Judy's face shifted. Because the story was beginning to build itself. Their clothes were there. Their shoes were there. Their belongings were there. Their plan had clearly involved returning to that apartment. I love it when a game plan sort of comes together, Judge Judy said. That was the first turn. The plaintiff's version was gaining weight. The defense was losing ground. Then Judge Judy moved to the witness. Mr. Newble had driven them back. He said he dropped the sisters off, let them inside with the key, and left to take another friend home. Later, he received a phone call from Shiva. She told him to hurry back. Something was wrong with her sister. She was bleeding. She was hysterical. By the time he returned, the police were already there. That meant the noise had become so intense that neighbors likely called for help. Now the courtroom had a timeline. The sisters were inside the apartment. The witness left. Screaming began. Blood appeared. Police arrived. Damage was discovered. And the plaintiff was left with the wreckage. Then Shiva gave the part of the story that made Judge Judy stop believing her. Shiva said the police put her injured sister into a cab and sent her home alone, even though she had blue lips, a pale face, and was in a frightening state. Shiva also claimed she wanted to go with her, but was told to stay behind. Judge Judy's expression changed. This was no longer just about damage. This was about credibility. Because in court, one lie does not stay alone. One lie poisons the entire story. Judge Judy leaned in and challenged her. Why did Shiva not go with her sister? Why would police send a severely impaired, bleeding young woman alone in a cab? Why would they prevent her own sister from accompanying her? Shiva tried to explain. But Judge Judy was not buying it. Not for 1 second. She said it plainly. She did not believe that the police forced Shiva to stay while sending her injured sister away alone. And that was the moment the courtroom energy shifted. Shiva had been trying to present herself as the responsible older sister, the calm one, the caretaker. But now Judge Judy saw something else, a witness who might be minimizing what really happened. Then came the photos. And photos do not stutter. Photos do not get nervous. Photos do not change their story. Judge Judy looked through image after image. Shattered glass, blood, more blood, blood on the tile, blood on the sofa, blood on the carpet, damage near the toilet, damage to property. This was not a tiny accident. This was a violent mess left behind in someone else's home. Shiva tried to reduce it. She said there was only a little spot on the carpet. Judge Judy immediately pushed back. No, it was not a little spot. The pictures showed something much larger, a stain area that could not simply be dismissed. The plaintiff explained that she had been cleaning again and again, but the stains kept coming back. The sofa had not been replaced. The carpet had not been professionally cleaned. The apartment was rented, which meant the carpet belonged to the landlord. That damage could cost her the security deposit, maybe even more. Judge Judy understood what that meant. This was not just embarrassment. This was financial damage. Someone had allowed another person into her home, and by the next morning, that home had blood, broken glass, damaged furniture, and property destruction. The injured sister did not remember what happened. She admitted she blacked out. She did not remember breaking anything. She did not remember how the damage happened. But that did not save her, because not remembering damage does not erase damage. A blackout is not a legal shield. It is not a magic eraser. It does not turn broken property into someone else's problem. Then Shiva tried one more time to challenge pieces of the plaintiff's claims. She said there was no damage to the television. She wanted Judge Judy to believe her witness, her version, her memory. But by then, the damage had already been done, not to the apartment, to her credibility. Judge Judy looked at her and delivered the line that became the heart of the entire case. Shiva, you are having a fight with the truth. The truth is winning. That sentence landed like a hammer, because everyone in the room understood what it meant. Judge Judy was not confused. She was not undecided. She had listened to the explanation, tested the timeline, looked at the photos, questioned the witness, and found the weak point. The story did not hold, not cleanly, not honestly, not enough. And then Judge Judy made it even clearer. She told Shiva that when someone tells her one lie, everything else they say becomes suspect. That was the viral moment. Not because someone screamed, not because someone cried, but because the courtroom watched truth take the stand without being called. A person can walk into court with a long explanation. They can bring emotion. They can bring excuses. They can bring confusion, panic, even tears. But when the evidence is sitting in photographs, when the timeline makes sense on one side and collapses on the other, the judge does not need drama. The judge needs logic. And Judge Judy had enough. She ruled for the plaintiff. $3,000. The sisters had caused damage. The damage had to be repaired. The injured sister may not have remembered every second of the night, but the apartment remembered. The carpet remembered. The sofa remembered. The broken glass remembered. The photos remembered. And in court, memory is not always human. Sometimes memory is a bloodstain that will not come out. After the ruling, the emotion spilled out in the hallway. The plaintiff said she believed justice had been done. She hoped the behavior would stop. She spoke like someone who had not only lost property, but also learned a brutal lesson about friendship. The injured sister said she blacked out and did not remember anything. She insisted she had not drunk that much. The other side threw accusations back: alcohol problems, drug problems, bad friendship, bad choices. Everyone had something to say once the case was over. But the ruling had already answered the only question that mattered: who was responsible for the damage? And Judge Judy's answer was final. This case was never just about a broken glass. It was about what happens when one reckless knight walks into someone else's home and leaves destruction behind. It was about the difference between an accident and accountability. It was about the moment excuses stop sounding like explanations and start sounding like escape routes. And above all, it was about truth, because in that courtroom, the truth did not arrive loudly. It arrived slowly, one detail at a time: the gym clothes, the overnight plan, the phone call, the police, the photographs, the blood, the broken story, until finally there was nowhere left to hide. The moral is painfully simple. Be careful who you call a friend. Be careful who you let into your home. And be even more careful with the truth, because once Judge Judy sees one crack in your story, she does not just look at the crack, she looks at the whole wall. And sometimes, before you even realize it, whole wall comes crashing down.